Today was Senator Marco Rubio's big day in Washington. The freshman senator made his maiden speech before the United States Senate. Of 16 senators elected last fall, he is the last to give a first official speech. So what did he have to say? Earlier today, Senator Marco Rubio went on the record. So nice to see you, sir.
Nice to see you.
Today was a big day, your maiden speech on the Senate floor.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Enjoyed it very much. We waited a while. We wanted to make sure we had something meaningful to say, and it kind of gives some mission statement and vision to what we want our term here in the Senate to be about. So it was, I enjoyed doing it. My family was able to come and see it live, so that was special too.
I was just going to ask you the family. Who's here?
My wife and our 4 kids and some friends from back home are here as well this week. But I mean, my kids are now, the girls are old enough to kind of understand what's going on a little bit. The boys just, what were they saying to me today? They saw me working. They're always curious about what it is I do up here, and they got for the first time to see that, so that was good.
A little nervous?
You just don't want you want to do a good job in expressing what you feel. So I don't know if it's nervous. There's certainly some anxiousness. I've never done it before, and the weight of it hits you. You know, you're standing on the floor of the United States Senate in the greatest republic in human history, and you have an opportunity to be a part of it. And I think, but I think once you get going, like anything else, the butterflies go away.
Why did you wait until now? I mean, you said a meaningful speech, but you know, it's almost 6 months into.
Well, we've been involved on issues. In terms of giving a speech on the floor, we wanted to wait for a moment where we felt we had something, you know, a real good message that kind of gave some framework to what I hope my term in the Senate will be about. And so traditionally, people have taken 2 years to do it, and in recent years, it's, you know, it's gotten sooner and sooner. So, you know, we waited about 5 months and a week to do it, something like that, and we thought that was appropriate. And also, you know, by the time we were ready to do it, the Senate had some long recesses, 2 weeks around Easter, another week right after Memorial Day. So the timing was perfect because my kids are out of school, and I wanted them to be here when I did that. So we had to wait for school to end as well.
All right, one of the takeaway lines that I took from it, and I'm taking part of it, is that you say there's nothing wrong with our people, but our government is broken.
It is. It is. Our people are as great as they've ever been. You know, Americans haven't forgotten how to create jobs. Americans haven't run out of good ideas. But we do have a broken government that's not fixing our problems. Primarily, you know, a tax code that's complicated and burdensome and difficult to predict, and so people are scared to invest in a country with that kind of tax code. Our regulations are strangling job creators. I mean, the regulatory hoops of trying to start a business in America are significant, and this national debt is a serious issue. Every week it gets worse. The proof is in the pudding. I mean, look at the results. Look at unemployment numbers. Look at how the economy has not only not gotten better, it's gotten worse. The things that, respectfully, the things the president's done, the things that the Democratic leadership here in the Senate have advocated, they're not working. These things are not working. Our government is broken. We've got to reverse course on these things.
In listening to your speech, it was very eloquent. I always love to listen to a great speech and feel inspired. And then I think to myself, well, you know, great speech, but actually getting something done in this environment is extraordinarily difficult, environment of Washington. How do you deal with it, or don't you have that sense that it's sort of a roadblock every time you move a foot forward?
Well, we have to recognize our Constitution also gave us a republic, and this republic was designed to limit government's ability to do things. I mean, the framers and the founders didn't really want us to have a very active government. They thought the government's job was to protect our rights, and that by and large, what would happen in our country would be a function of what our people did.
Yeah, but the tax code, you mentioned the tax code. That tax code, which is, according to the Debt Commission, has 3,300 special interests parts to it. So I mean, the tax code's a nightmare. People have been talking about it for years, but how do you actually get it to get fixed?
Yeah, people have to just feel a sense of urgency. One of the other things I said in the speech today is that one of the reasons why we're not making progress on some of these issues is that there's too many people here in Washington, in both parties, that I think have deduced or concluded that the next election is more important than the next generation. So we do have to have a sense of urgency about what we're facing.
How do you get that?
Well, we have to realize what's at stake, and that was the point of my speech. The point of my speech is, look, America's been phenomenal, particularly in the 20th century. We were exceptional. The 20th century was the American century. The 21st century can be that as well. But we have to go out and do it. It's not going to happen on its own, and here are a few things we have to do. We have to understand that what's at stake here is not who controls the House, the Senate, or the White House. What's at stake here is what kind of country we're going to have in this new century. And if we want it, it can actually be better than the 20th century. But we've got to want to do it, and then we've got to go out and do it. And if people understand what the stakes are, I think that'll motivate them to take action.
All right, if a year from now, all your hopes and dreams that you outlined in your speech are unattainable because this is, quote, Washington, will you be dispirited?
I don't know if I'll be dispirited, but I'll certainly be disappointed. I've already been disappointed that we haven't dealt with some of these issues. I mean, I've been here 5.5 months. We still haven't done anything that I think has been meaningful for our economy in terms of in the Senate. They haven't put any of those bills up to be heard, and we've wasted a lot of time. This debt limit debate is a perfect opportunity to try to talk about how to fix the debt, and nothing's happening on it, and I don't understand it. I think it's politics. I think it's a desire to leave it. First of all, I think there's a strategy behind it. They're trying to wait until the last second and then force something down our throat. That's part of it. And the other part of it is they want to use it as a weapon. I mean, they want to focus on other issues that they can use to win elections. It's proof of what I'm saying, that there are too many people here that think that elections are more important than the future of our country, and it's not.
Doesn't it make you crazy?
Not crazy, but certainly
you know
frustrated.
what I mean? It's a bit frustrated. I mean, it's like
frustrated. Yeah, I mean, you get disappointed because it's not just it's the opportunity cost of it. I mean, we really have a chance. The world is coming in our direction. We really have a chance for the 21st century to be even better than the 20th. I mean, there are more people around the world than ever before that can now afford to buy the things that Americans can invent, build, and sell. But again, we have to have an economy that can do that the government's not impeding the American people from doing these things. So more than anything else, I'm frustrated that we're missing an opportunity to craft a new American century.
How's President Obama doing?
I don't think he's doing a good job, and largely because I think the ideology that he brings to the office is the wrong one. I mean, he has a tremendous amount of confidence and faith in the ability of our government to stimulate our economy. And look, our government's important, but our government's not what's going to grow our economy. Our economy is going to be grown by everyday people from all walks of life that have really good ideas and are prepared to go out and take risks to bring those ideas into reality. And what they need is for a government that makes it easier for them to do that, not harder. When your government's running up debt, when it has complicated taxes and high regulations and all the uncertainty created by things like Obamacare, they're not making it easier to do that, they're making it harder.
So how do we actually sort of turn it around? Because, you know, I know that the Republicans say, well, in the next election, you know, people can go to the polls and they can vote a Republican Senate and a Republican in the White House. But the problem is the American people, this is urgent for a lot of people. A lot of people don't have jobs, a lot of homes are underwater, some people worry about foreclosure. I mean, there's really an incredible sense of urgency in this country with so many. How, in the short run, can the American people be helped?
Well, I think they can be helped by policymakers that take the opportunity seriously. As I said, look, this is not a time to be afraid. This is a time to be excited about the opportunity before us. We have challenges that have to be confronted, but we have a chance to do something special here to make the 21st century just as prosperous as the 20th. But it's going to take some real policy measures. We have to have a plan to start bringing this debt under control. And this debt limit is an opportunity to do that. We have to have a plan to make our tax code more predictable. You want to encourage people to invest in America. It's not just how high the tax rate is are they certain what the tax code is going to be down the road? We got to bring
That's going to take forever.
No, it shouldn't. These plans are out there now. Why? Why would it take forever?
You tell me. I've been hearing this in Washington since I've been here, that all this stuff is going to happen. It's not happening.
And you know why? Because there's no sense of urgency. Because instead of making this calculation, in some of these meetings where they're deciding these issues, they're not viewing it through the lens of what can we do. You know, here we have this opportunity to make the 21st century the American century. Let's go out and do it. They're not viewing it that way. They're saying, okay, how can we use the issue of taxes? How can we use the issue of Medicare? How can we use the issue of debt to win the next election?
And so how do we get them to get off that as being the goal and instead think of the urgency of what the
Well,
American
and that's what I'm
need?
trying to outline in the speech today, is that I think we have to start talking about how urgent, not just urgent, but what an important and incredible historic opportunity we have to build a new American century if we take action right now. And I think it all begins by having enough people stand up and say, in both parties, you're right, we have a chance to do something special here. Let's try to figure it out. Because I'll tell you this, if we don't fix this and we lose the things that have made America exceptional, history's not going to be kind to Republicans or Democrats. They're going to look back at this entire generation of American leadership and say, those are those people responsible for the decline of the greatest country in the history of the world.
What's been the most shocking thing you've learned since you've been in Washington that you never dreamed was going to be the story?
Well, I don't know if I've never dreamed it, but certainly, especially on the issues of foreign policy, very rarely do you get a choice between a really good option and a really bad option. More often than not, it's a choice between two less than ideal options, and you're trying to figure out which one of the two is the better one. And so I think that, and how complicated and quickly developing the issues are around the world. I mean, at this time last year, none of the things happening in the Middle East now were predictable. And yet you've seen that all over the region, from Libya through Tunisia, Egypt and Syria. All of these things would have hard to even imagine a couple of years ago. These things come upon you pretty quickly.
If you, when you walk away from the office of being a U.S. Senator, whether it's the end of one term, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever, what's the one thing you want to at least think, you know, I accomplished this, this is what I did?
That I was part of a group of people that came up here and put in place policies from a government government standpoint that allow us to usher in the neo-American century. That in essence, history will look back and say, as great as the 20th century was for America, the 21st century was even better because more nations than ever came in our direction, not only democratically, but also in terms of economics. And that we did policies here that actually made that happen. And I hope that that'll be our legacy to our children and to the world.
Who do you admire most on Capitol Hill?
Here, Capitol Hill? A lot of people I've been impressed by, but I can tell you the person who helped me get elected and whose tenacity on some of these issues I really admire is Senator DeMint. I didn't know him 2 years ago. He supported my candidacy when no one thought I could win out of principle, and I have been really inspired by his perseverance on these issues and his focus on them single-handedly. I think he's got some help this time around because we were able to elect some folks here that are like-minded, and so I'm grateful for his help, and I admire very much his courage and his leadership.
Think the Senate takes the Tea Party seriously?
I do. I think the Tea Party movement has been a positive development for America. You know, the Tea Party movement is still misunderstood by mainstream media. I mean, they think it's a political party or an organization. It's a sentiment of everyday Americans of all walks of life, many who have never participated in politics before other than doing their civic duty and voting, who are frustrated at the direction of our country, who fear that Washington doesn't take seriously the direction of our country or the things that are going wrong. And they're mad at both parties, and they want people to come up here and make a difference. And that's what 2010 was about, and hopefully that's what the future will be about as well. And I think the Tea Party has been a positive, the Tea Party sentiment especially, has been a very positive development for American politics.
All right, I always hate to ask the question everybody asks, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Your name's batted around all the time as a possible vice presidential candidate, run on ticket. You have any interest?
I'm flattered that people would throw my name around like that, but I'm not interested. I mean, I'm not going to be the vice presidential nominee for Republicans. I'm going to be a U.S. Senator. As I said, I've been here now 5 months. Every day I think we get better at our job as we learn how this institution works. I think we have a lot of challenges before us, and I'm excited about the job I'm doing. I really don't think about it, and I'm not going to be the vice presidential nominee.
What do your kids say about your speech today?
I think they liked it to the extent that they fully grasped it. Again, my 10-year-old, I have an 11-year-old and a 9-year-old, they get it more. My 5-year-old and my 6-year-old and 4-year-old, I think they were more interested in how the microphone worked, and how it fit on the podium and all that.
Senator, thank you, and we'll be watching as the years go on. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Greta.